Joining me now for this, we have additional Adeomi, he's the CEO, Trade Lender. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning, Larry. Great to be here.
Fantastic. So let's start with the big picture now. How would you assess, the current status of MSME funding and, financial inclusion in Nigeria in 2025? We know things have been kind of moving on the up and up, at this point. What are you seeing?
Yeah, thank you very much, Larry, for this opportunity to be here. Good morning to our audience. The MSME funding landscape is a very interesting, space, contributing today for over 50% of our GDP, as well as also over 80% of the jobs that we have across Nigeria. But, it's quite funny and interesting that recent reports shows an increasing growth in terms of the gap that we have, even despite the various initiatives which has been positioned to actually reduce this gap. A recent report by PwC puts this number at over, $32.2 billion gap in Nigeria alone, and across various demographics in Africa. This is actually, over $236 billion US. In Nigeria alone, this is, equivalent to over 13 trillion naira in terms of gap that we have for MSMEs, alone. Which simply means that more effort needs to actually be focused in ensuring that we support these MSMEs, over 40 million MSMEs who are actually contributing towards job creation, meaning that 1 out of every 5 people across Nigeria are actually MSMEs, contributing their own quota for socio-economic growth.
And, while you're speaking there, we're seeing efforts, made so far for MSME funding and, financial inclusion efforts. We see Q1 2025 grants and employment efforts, about 1 trillion grants from likes of Msme and LEAP, trying to raise about 2.5 million jobs, training people, to get the skills that they need at this time. We've seen 198 billion Naira loan fund with 9% interest, 100 million Naira loans, grants up to 400,000. We've seen efforts from Development Bank of Nigeria, BOI, women financing. How is all of this, helping, most of these efforts we've seen so far?
Okay. I think all these initiatives are applaudable. And I think one of the reasons is we also understand that we are just a few years down the line to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals if we actually want to eradicate poverty. And one way to be able to support this attainment of these goals is actually by ensuring that we support the engine room. MSMEs are actually strategic movements to ensuring that we are able to achieve zero poverty across the region, starting with Nigeria and also across the continent. And it's quite interesting to see how some of these various initiatives. But one other thing I must point out is the fact that we need to ensure that we have a strong distribution that ensures that we're able to, get this access to finance, not just to corporate, but actually to the micro, small, and medium-scale businesses out there who are actually, the drivers of our economy and also positive, change makers across this space.
All right, so let's look at crowdfunding now. That seems to be gaining ground. With the SEC registering, 3 of such platforms, raising nearly about 1 billion now already. What role do you see, crowdfunding playing in democratizing access to capital, for MSMEs in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Larry. Crowdfunding is a very interesting initiative, and these models have been, key drivers. To actually ensuring that access to finance, and not just access to finance, but quality and also affordable access to finance gets to the grassroots. Because what happens with crowdfunding is you get a whole lot of people who are also interested in not just, making money, but also making impact. So you have individuals, HNIs, and various other stakeholders who are interested in participating in various crowdfunding opportunities because they are sure of the transparency and also the ability for these funds to be able to ensure that micro, small, and medium-scale businesses, as well as those in the retail space, agriculture, are able to get access to finance at relatively lower rates. They are not after trying to get that markup at maybe 30%, which you typically get when you look at what the MPR today says and what the banks are offering, in the long run to the final end users. They are also not asking for upfront collateral. So crowdfunding, today serves as a medium in which we can actually democratize access to finance for these micro, small, and medium-scale businesses at very affordable rates, because those that are behind it are actually looking for ways to get their funds to work for them, but at the same time make an impact.
All right, we see the government, pushing forward, with digital inclusion. NEET does a roadmap, including partnership like the Google and programs like the ASO Accord. They aim to open up finance, especially for women, and small businesses. How are these initiatives translating into real funding opportunities, in your view?
So already, what we've seen is, gone are those days when people just focus on just providing access to finance. New initiatives today are actually targeting women and youth, because you understand that for us to be able to have a robust society for shared economic prosperity, we need to be able to also target the women and youth, who are contributing. And what this has done is has also increased, the rate at which involvement of women and youth are contributing within this space. Apart from that, it's also helping women specifically to get very tailored made financing, also trainings and literacy, capacity building, which helps them to be able to actually structure their business and get the long run benefit of actually, contributing to the society. Another aspect is also the low interest, which is also then targeted towards various initiatives for women and youth, so that they can be able to get lower cost of funds, even far better than what typically they would get, in the parallel market. But aside from that is another interesting initiative which is also coming up in the space, where you are then seeing more people coming in to participate, meaning that fintechs, platforms like us, are also coming in to participate and contribute meaningfully, so that we can actually distribute it to the grassroots without asking for upfront collateral. Thank you.
All right, so going forward, what are you seeing? We've had the first half of 2025. What are you seeing in this second half already that's showing that MSMEs are getting it easier? And what would you like to see in policy-wise, going forward, to make sure that 10 years from now we're not having this same conversation trying to get MSMEs funded?
Yes, so thank you very much, Ladi. One of the trends that I see for 2025 and beyond is the fact that the traditional banks are also beginning to understand that they need to pay close attention to MSMEs. They are actually the engine room. Gone are those days whereby it's only fintechs that are paying close attention to these MSMEs. Right now, the banks are also being, I don't want to use the word forced, but they have no option than to come and either work with the fintechs who understand it better, or they are also devising ways to try to see how they can actually not just sit on the side, but also be participatory in terms of the movement to support these MSMEs. Another area is actually also DFIs, cutting out the middle line to ensure that they work with people who have more distribution. So gone are the days where people, carry out greenwashing activities to say, oh, we're supporting MSMEs. Meanwhile, they're actually supporting the large corporate. And what this is actually also doing for us is helping us to build a stronger foundation. And going forward, it will help us to build a foundation whereby we have MSMEs reduce wastage in terms of agricultural post-harvest waste. That number is going to reduce, where you have people actually having access to finance, where they can actually not just export without value additions. They can add value to the product which they've actually invested, and from there, these products can actually be exported, which would also in turn bring in foreign income to boost and sustain our economy, to also help us to be able to create jobs. A whole lot of players, MSMEs right now are exposed with the use of technology, with the use of access to tangible and tailor-made financing, to be able to then export their product out there, refine it, add value to it, and then that way we're able to increase our FX, our foreign investment, and also even various other stakeholders who before now were not actually looking into this sector, now understand that without access to finance, every other thing you're doing is just a waste of time. You need to be able to embed this access to finance. You need to be able to support those who are actually contributing towards this economic growth. And it's actually a new initiative, which I strongly believe by 2030, maybe we won't be talking about financial inclusion to be a normal part of.
Fantastic. We'll see everyone is financially included. Hopefully, by that time. Thank you so much, Additional Adewumi. He's a CEO, Trade Lender. Thank you for lending us your thoughts today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Larry.